Hello and welcome to another karting video. We've now reached the halfway point of the Club 100 Sprint60 season, round 6 from Ellough Park, which for me is a completely new circuit. Never been there before, only ever seen videos on YouTube and the Nicky Richardson track guide, so didn't really know what to expect until I actually got there. But I think now Ellough Park is probably the circuit I've really enjoyed driving at the most of all of the places I've visited in almost the last 2 years. Even when I do things like this on the during the practice session, the track has just got a really nice flow to it, a really nice mixture of corners, and added to that, it's got a really decent track surface. There's a lot of grit, even when the conditions aren't perfect. So yeah, I just really enjoyed driving it, really enjoyed racing at it, and I really hope that we're going to go back next year. And despite, you know, a couple of lockups going into the fast turn 1, I definitely improved my lap times throughout the entire practice session, and also managed to go faster during the qualifying part of it. Wasn't spectacular by any stretch of the imagination, but managed to qualify me in the middle of the super heavyweight field, so I'd start the race from 35th. So here we go for race 1. So I'm starting in the inside lane, which is probably not a bad place to be going into turn 1. Just coming up to take the start now, and I actually get quite a reasonable start. I don't leave a horrendous gap, and then there's a little bit of an opening here coming into turn 1, but the guy in front of me decides to turn in even though there's a bit of an overlap there, and I've lost a bit of momentum. Coming round into the first hairpin, there's some inevitable contact in front, and there's a bit of congestion here which slows everyone up, so I managed to make up a place there. And now we're into the really nice fast flowing part of the track that leads into the second hairpin. And the good thing is here I'm keeping up with the pack in front of me. I haven't done anything silly. You know, it's a reasonable, solid start. Coming through the final sequence of turns through the third hairpin, and then the final turn coming back to the start-finish straight. And yeah, it's a decent, solid lap for lap 1. I'm now behind Tim Randall, which would become a very familiar sight over the next actually 15 or so laps. So I'm able to close up right there, but not close enough to really make a move. And right now, and this probably is a mistake on my part, I'm just trying to suss out where I'm going, where I'm faster or slower than the guy in front. I'm not really trying to get in front of him, which, as I say, is probably a mistake. In hindsight, when we see how this unfolds. So just starting lap 2. You can see here Tim's gone really wide coming out of the kind of double apex turn 1. And I'm able to take a much tighter line while still maintaining speed. So obviously I'm covering less ground, so therefore I'm able to close up to him coming out of that sequence of corners. Again, pack in front, not really making a huge break from us. We're all kind of very even on pace at this point in time, so it's all still looking positive coming to the end of the 3rd lap. Now, someone's just sneaked in front of me there. Somebody recovering from a spin on lap 1. So I have lost a little bit of ground here, but I'm not going to panic. I mean, that's possibly that's the beauty of having 30-minute races, is if your pace is reasonably close to people in front of you, even if you know, drop a little bit of a gap, you can. There is time to recover. I mean, if this was a sprint race, we'd basically be halfway through by now, with not a huge amount of time to do anything. So that guy's going to make a move on Tim coming into the final hairpin, pushes him a bit wide, that slows him up, and now I'm able to close back up again. So really I've lost a place, but you know, I haven't really particularly lost out. I can get back to trying to find a way past. So there's a bit of fighting up front. That slows Tim down a bit, so I'm able to get right up behind him again. 5 laps down, and you know, we're doing okay. I've sped the footage up now because not a lot happens. You can see I'm still reasonably close to the carts in front, but I don't really find anywhere to get past. So I'm going to have a look down the inside into turn 1. Clearly doesn't work. Tim's hugely wide coming out there, so now I've got the run coming into this section, but at no point does he really back out. He's always alongside me, and I've kind of really got to let him back onto the track at that point. I mean, I could have just stayed over to the left and kind of hung him out to dry, but I don't really want to race people like that. I wouldn't like it if somebody did it to me, so I don't really think it's fair to do it to someone else. So at this point, I've sort of worked out that I think I am quicker than him overall. So I start to adjust braking points a little bit, maybe give him a bit of space coming into the corner to see if I can get a better exit, perhaps see if I can get a run out on him. Just seeing where I can maybe drive slightly differently to gain a bit of an advantage, because as you can see, pretty much all the time I can close up, particularly on corner exit, so I don't have to panic, I don't have to go for a wild lunge, I can try and see if there's something I can do. You can see the carts in front are starting to break away. You know, I really need to try and find a way past. Otherwise that gap's just continue to grow. So coming through the final corner, I've got a bit of a better exit here, so I'm going to try and get a run onto the turn 1. I'm kind of reasonably well alongside, but just decide to back out of it. Just not quite close enough. So we're going to speed up again here, because not anything, nothing really exciting is happening. Again, he's not getting away. I'm kind of keeping pace. So back into turn one. I'm going to try again. Further alongside this time. I don't back out of it, and neither does Tim. So he just decided to turn in on me. It's not like I could do it at that point. I was kind of committed to the corner. I mean, later on he did actually apologise, and after he'd seen some of the footage said, I probably shouldn't have turned in on you, but we're all racing, we're all trying to defend our positions. I mean, it's not the end of the world. So a bit more speeding up here again. He's not getting away. I'm just kind of keeping pace, but you can definitely see the gap in front is now huge. So down to the final hairpin. He's wide and slow there. He's slightly slow through the final corner as well, so I've definitely got a chance. So let's try down the inside again. I think I'm fairly well alongside, but I knew he was going to turn in on me at that point, so decided to back out of it. What wasn't really worth doing it. So speeding up again. Someone's recovering in front of us, so there's a car between us. But he gets the move done, so I'm back where I was before, back on Tim's bumper. So we're now 15 laps into the race, and I'm still trying to find a way past. Right, so here we go. Can I finally get it done? Coming into the final hairpin. He's really wide there, and he's slid the back of the cart as well. He's really lost momentum. So coming out of the final corner, I now decide to go around the outside. I've tried the inside a couple of times. It's really not worked. Maybe compromising his line works. So around the outside. And what do you know, it actually works. I suppose I should have realised this earlier. Clearly his preference was to kind of cut in and then go wide on the exit. By blocking that complete route off, I kind of completely compromised his ability to go through turn one, and finally got it done. But we're now 17 laps into the race. There's no one near us. You can just about see the car in front. I've lost a huge amount of ground here. I was kind of thinking maybe he'd come back at me, but he then had a spin, I think maybe a lap or two after I'd got past, so I was pretty much on my own. So we're going to skip forward here because not a great deal happens. We're now on to lap 24. And the faster guys are starting to come past now. As fun as that battle was, and don't get me wrong, it was fun. I really enjoy the fact that there are people who are around a similar pace to me, and we can actually race closely like that. I mean, if you can't get out the front with the really quick guys, you might as well have fun whilst you are, not as close to the front as you'd like. But on balance, I needed to find a way past earlier. Maybe I could have then pushed on and finished further up. I think I did lose a fair bit of time. My ultimate pace wasn't, a good deal quicker than I was able to show behind him. So I guess I need to balance being aggressive, but not taking huge risks or putting myself in a position where I can get silly penalties just because I'm lunging to try and get close to people. So at this point, I'm hoping that maybe the group of faster karts in front of me here are gonna slow down the guy that I'm closest to, and maybe that will give me a chance to close up and make a move at the end. But it never really happens, and I finish in the place I'm in now, which I think was 31st. So from starting 35th, 31st or 32nd. No, it's 32nd, I think. So from starting 35th, I did make some progress, and had, you know, quite a solid race, but just those 15, 16 laps of battling with Tim just lost contact with the pack and really wasn't able to close up any further. So on to race 2. This time I'm starting on the outside, not the inside, and a little bit further up, obviously, than I started race 1. So we'll see what we can make of it from here. Coming out the final turn, they actually get a jump on me. I lose a fair amount of ground. So it's a pretty poor start, really, in comparison with race 1. But I hang it around the outside of turn 1, and actually the sort of outside line, you can see we've still got kind of 2 distinct lines of cars coming through here. We seem to have made a better fist of it. Coming into hairpin 1, and the almost inevitable has happened. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 carts, I think, something like that, off the track. That then kind of slows the rest of us up as these guys are recovering. So I've gained a bit of ground, I've lost a bit of ground, and I've definitely had worse starts to races, so we can work from here. A bit more contact up front, I kind of shuffled a bit, but you know, I think we can definitely do so. Hopefully can do something from here. So coming into the final corner, coming up to start-finish line after lap 1, not the worst start. So these guys are fighting really hard, which is good for me. As long as I can stay close, I think there's definitely going to be opportunities to get past. So clearly the guy in the green helmet is one of the recovering drivers from that hairpin 1 incident on lap 1. You can just see how much quicker he was coming past me. It's almost like I'm going backwards. But this group is kind of condensed up, and they're all fighting away, so I think there's a definite opportunity. You can see there's a bit of contact there in front, coming into the hairpin. So you can see this guy hooks an inside wheel over the curb, and that really compromises his exit. I'm down the inside, and my momentum has just allowed me to carry that, make that move stick into the second hairpin. Oh, and just the slightest contact on that tyre wall. I guess the question is, did the observer see me or not? But the answer is absolutely yes. He was looking right at me as I went through there. So we've just possibly got another lap to wait to see if I get a penalty or not for hitting the tyre wall. That's a one-place drop at the end of the race. And you can see I've also lost contact with these guys in front as well. There's a gap really starting to form now. But we'll just have to try and push forward. So here we are coming back into the second hairpin. back to my friend the tyre wall. So we're going to see as we come across the start-finish line, is the digi flag going to give me the news I don't want to see? And yeah, there's my race number 9 up on the screen. Cone penalty. So skip forward a long way here because basically nothing happened in the race. The guys in front of me kind of got a gap. There was no one close behind me either. This is one of the front runners that's just gone past. But what has happened is it's got darker and it's going to start raining. The weather forecast had been predicting rain all week, and even on the day of the race it was predicting rain. But it never really looked like it was going to happen, but suddenly this came up out of nowhere. You can see the first few spots starting to appear. Rain, when it starts raining and it's previously been dry, it's a really weird experience because the amount of drops on your visor make it seem like it's really, really raining when even it's not. So you can say that you see the first lap here doesn't really make a lot of difference. There's no drop off in pace. The track looks the same, but you can see it's definitely starting to rain. There's more drops on the camera. So we're just going to have to see what happens here. And again, never having been in this track before, I have no idea what it's going to be like in the wet. The track guide didn't even have any wet footage on it, so it's very much going to be a voyage of discovery. Pace hasn't really dropped off that much yet. I'm not even a second behind my fastest lap of the race at the moment, but you can see, or you can't see, because the camera's starting to get obscured, so clearly it's getting wetter. At this point, we're quite close to the end of the race as well, and I can see when the track folds back on itself that no one's hugely close to me, so you know, what I'm really trying to do is just don't do anything stupid, get to the end, because it would be very easy to spin and then basically end up potentially right at the back of the pack and lose all the kind of good work I've done in the previous race. So now I'm 2 seconds off my previous fastest lap, and I'm also starting to think about driving differently. I'm keeping away from the apex of the corners. In general, when it's wet, the apex of the corner is very slippery because there's a lot of rubber that's laid down, and the water just kind of sits on top of that sheen of rubber. Now in the dry, that rubber's critical. It really helps you go through the corners quickly because there's a lot more grip there, but in the wet it just becomes a slightly oily, greasy mess that isn't very good. So you start to take wide lines through the corner. So coming into the final hairpin, you're now going to see I'm going to pretty much stick all the way around the outside. I'm not going anywhere near the apex at all. In some places you kind of have to, there's no choice, but yeah, definitely try. And in fact now you can see the digi flag is now displaying the slippery surface flag, so it's definitely wet. And now I'm 6 seconds a lap slower than I had gone, so clearly I'm going a lot slower. I'm being quite careful. I'm kind of feathering the throttle, maybe on balance. I'm being much. I could afford to be a bit more aggressive. I think I could afford to push harder, but I just really want to get to the end of the race and not do anything dumb. So again, coming to the final hairpin, all the way around the outside. Across the line, and in fact it's the final lap, and I've just now been caught by the really quick guys. or at least the kind of pack of fast guys. And again, at this point, I'm really just trying to finish. I'm not trying to be clever. And even to be honest, the bit of rain at the end and the silly penalty for hitting the tyres early on in race 2, which really annoyed me for quite a period in the race, I still really enjoyed it. Love this track. Really want to come back next year. Yeah, I can't really fault it. Just need to hopefully pick up the pace and not sit behind someone for half of the race. So, as I said earlier, this is the halfway point of the season. We're having a bit of a summer break at the moment. We start racing again in September, where we're off to Bayford Meadows and then Landau in Wales, which again for me is a completely new track. I'm hoping that I can have as strong a weekend at Landau as I did here at Ellough Park, but we're just going to have to see. But all in all, yeah, fun weekend. Looking forward to the rest of the season.